Good evening. I'm Paul Sloat with Green Drake Partners, and this is Pat Weldy with Merrill Lynch as my co-host, and we are Money Matters TV. Good evening, Pat.
How are you, Paul?
Good.
Good to see you again.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Sure.
What kind of opportunities do you see today for your clients in the markets?
I would tell you, Paul, I am more optimistic today than I've been in my 22-year career. I truly am. Where or what are the opportunities? I'd say twofold. The first one, I think most investors today are underallocated to the stock market. If they would look, maybe some financial planning they did or some planning they did with an advisor 3, 5, 10 years ago and agreed on an asset allocation that made sense for them, I think if most people are honest and go through the exercise, now's a good time to do it. Start of a new year, people are doing their taxes, which is a kind of a time when people get organized, and look at where is their overall all assets asset allocation today. I think most people will find they do not own enough stocks. So the first thing is I think there's a terrific opportunity. And believe me, I get it. I'm here. I sit in my desk every single day. I know how unusually bad and painful the last 2 years, the last 10 years has been. The returns have been unusually bad. But I'll focus not on the bad, but on the unusually. And I think if we look out the front window, return to the norm has never been a better argument than today. We need to return to the norm. And if we return to the norm, the next 10 years is going to be much different, much better than what we're used to in the last 10 years. And I think people got to accept that and get involved. So I think the stock market is a great place. Number 2, municipal bonds. I think for high net worth investors, for high income earners, tax-free bonds today are really attractive on an after-tax, inflation-adjusted basis. The returns you can get are terrific compared to taxable alternatives in fixed income. And the real message is, where are tax rates going? I think you could poll 100 viewers, and 98 of them would say higher. And I would say the other 2, what are you missing? Because they're going higher. Well, that should make tax-free income more valuable. So I think tax-free bonds are a great opportunity, and I think equities are a great opportunity.
Yeah, we agree on all those points. We've been writing to our investors that the stock market, if you look at the returns over the last 150 years and you get a return to the norm, in returns over the next decade should be quite fabulous for investors. And the other data we have seen that shows investors have allocated way too much to bonds today. Taxable bonds, in fact, and not enough to both equities and to tax-frees.
Great. Well, we're on the same page there. Yeah, I agree. I'm just terribly optimistic that there's more to go. Believe me, I understand we've come a long way in the first year of this recovery, but from where we came from, we deserved it. We deserved it.
So where are your clients in making this transition from, having too much in taxable to equities and non-taxable bonds?
Yeah, I have never been, for taxable accounts, a big advocate of taxable bonds. So I really I own bonds for clients, but a lot of them are in their retirement accounts where they're tax sheltered. So I really never had to make that transition because my clients have always owned tax-free bonds. But for those that don't and those that have a lot of taxable income, again, it's the springtime. You're going to be going to your accountants, and if you're paying a lot of taxes based on reported interest, that you're receiving, talk to your advisor. Is there a way I can lessen my tax bill by having some of that income be tax-free?
Are you also buying MLPs for your clients?
MLPs are master limited partnerships, which are publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange in many cases, are incredible income generators. I mean, they have been for the past 2 to 5, 10 years, terrific total return investments for clients. And I know you and I talked about them earlier, where a lot of them are in the energy area, which in today's marketplace is a good place to be, and I'm looking forward to talk to our guest about where they fit into that. But the incomes that they're throwing off are just terrific compared to other taxable income or tax-free income, for that matter, on an after-tax basis.
Well, that's right, and a portion of the taxable stream that you get gets sheltered because of the depreciation from the partnership.
Exactly, because you can get, and the folks will understand that when they get their year-end reporting, where a lot of the different distributions they'll record as return of capital, you have it, but you don't have to pay taxes on it, which is
And you ultimately, especially in a rising tax environment, only pay long-term capital gains.
Exactly. No, I think that's a great point. That's another, I think, another piece that if you haven't heard of master limited partnerships or you don't own any, you should speak to your advisor about them. And on that note, I will remind our advisors that our program is taped. So if you hear anything on our program between Paul and I, always check with your advisors, because we never know when you're going to see this program.
Well, that brings us to our question from our viewer.
Yes.
Our question comes from Mary Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary Johnson asked the following: what do you think about technology as a long-term investment?
Mary, it's a home run. I absolutely am an advocate of technology for the long term. I think what most investors, though, need to wrestle with is, well, how do you participate in that? And technology, make no bones about it, is a terrific, dependable growth industry, but it moves so rapidly, you have to be very careful. And I think for most individual investors, owning the individual companies is not the most appropriate way to do it. There are some excellent, actively managed technology mutual funds that I think for many investors are more appropriate, where you have a manager who understands the technology, understands the changes taking place, and the impacts those changes are going to have on suppliers and sellers of the product, and can maneuver through those volatile waters in an easier fashion than trying to pick whatever's doing great today and hope that they're going to stay great, because it just changes so quickly.
Yeah, well, I would agree with you, because we own some technology stocks in our fund, and I can tell you the amount of time you need to spend to understand not only the advantages, but what are the threats to these companies, and how is the technology changing, and what's the real underlying growth rate is tremendous amount.
No doubt. Yep.
Even for the professionals. If you have a question and you'd like to have us ask it on a show, please write to Money Matters, 205 East Levering Mill Road, Ballackinwood, Pennsylvania, 19004, or feel free to email us at moneymatterstv@gmail.com, and that's moneymatterstv with no spaces. Well, now I'd like to welcome our guest, Kevin Kennedy, to the show, and Kevin Kennedy is with Advanced Conservation Technology. Good evening, Kevin.
How are you?
Kevin, how are you?
Pleasure meeting you guys. Appreciate you having me on.
So, Kevin, first, tell us, what is Advanced Conservation Technology about? What do you do? What do you produce? Give the viewers an idea.
We bring technology to the fore for the sustainable industry, the green industry. What our catchphrase basically comes down to is we bring green to emerald. That's essentially where we're going, and what that entails is a structure that essentially is not only sustainable, but can really delve into temperature retention in regard to how a structure is built. Conventionally building, essentially from the standpoint of where buildings have been created in the past over 5,000 years of technology,
Sure. Right.
They never really took into consideration the cost of energy. What we can say in terms of what our buildings afford the end user is a building that retains temperature, not in a conventional sense of about 2 hours, 3 hours if you were to shut the climate control off in the winter or the summer. You'll lose your temperature, and or it will equalize outside temperature within a very short period of time. With our particular technology, our wall system, which essentially is this particular pre-insulated block, is one of probably 75 to 90 hours.
So basically what you're saying is you produce a block that's used in construction that can effectively pay for itself in a very short period of time.
Absolutely. And it's not only is it paying for itself in a very short period of time, it works to the same simple principle of reducing the consumption of energy.
Now, this is a model of one of your products?
That's correct.
Show us or tell us what's unique about the product.
What makes this unique is this is a scale of a 12-inch block, essentially.
Cinder block.
A cinder block,
Okay.
a regular sized
Okay.
cinder block. And,
Right.
and a cinder block, everybody would probably notice about this size, of about maybe 8 inches. Okay? Whereas with this particular block, you have the veneer, which is the center or the outside face of this block. You have the interior part of the block and the polystyrene insert. That polystyrene insert provides a complete thermal break from the outside to the in. Automatically, it's coming to the site, and before it even is put up, it's going to avoid any kind of conductive temperature from the outside to the in. Therefore, a thermal break is actually established within the wall system.
So in my words, I'm not a construction guy, but you're taking a cinder block and you're putting a layer of insulation in the middle of the cinder block.
That's correct. And it's laid up as a standard block would be laid up. Any mason would be able to do this. And essentially, the building is completed. They can come in a variety of different fascias and a variety of different colors or styles or whatever it is that the client is expecting in the specification of the building. And really it boils down to just simply, once it's laid up, you're ready to do whatever else you have to do in order to create that building. So it basically cuts down, number one, an enormous expense in labor, but number two, an enormous time to actually construct the building.
So basically, if I were to look at your block, you could deliver a block that, let's say, has a granite outside or a wood outside or whatever anybody wanted, and they just put it, so you don't need the guys to come and actually, take a bolt and put the bolt and put your piece of granite on the outside of the building.
That's correct. It comes right from the plant, just the way that the request is by the customer. And we're very customer-oriented, and that's another unique part of this block.
So there should be big savings in terms of new construction using this block.
Absolutely, and in many different ways.
Well, my question, being plain the devil's advocate, I can see that the other things would save you money, but I got to believe that block is a lot more expensive than a normal block. Am I?
Not enormously expensive,
Okay.
more expensive. If you figure that a standard 12-inch block will run, generally speaking, about $3.50, $4 a block.
Okay.
Whereas this block, you could see it, depending on the part of the country you're in,
Sure.
anywhere from $7 to $8 a block. So
Okay.
it's only about twice the amount of money.
But it's done.
But it's done.
Sure.
It comes complete, and that makes an enormous impact on the.
But
on
I
the
would
bottom
imagine,
line.
as you had said, the real savings is not in the actual block of the construction, although there is savings on the whole process. The real savings is when you get that energy bill at the end of the month.
That's
and
correct.
for your
Block
bill,
kind of pays for itself.
I'd say so.
And essentially, that's again with the holistic approach that we're using. We're also aligned with different products, such as the most efficient windows in the world. So they claim. And a decking or a floor, ceiling, and modular roofing type of product that's out there that can basically make this thing almost to the point where you can basically establish a thermal lag, as I referred to earlier, of about 90 hours. And it's a phenomenal savings in many different senses.
So if you look at how your business is going to develop over the next few years, and the commercial construction business probably near the bottom of its cycle, as you look out over the next few years, you should have tremendous opportunities for your business.
Absolutely correct. Because as this becomes more of the norm of what people are expecting, because energy costs, they keep rising.
Yeah.
We basically are going to provide this product out there for people to actually save the money up front and save the money in the long haul. And essentially, we have designed prospects of new and improved products that even essentially far outweigh what it is that we already have.
Yeah.
So we're working that, and that works into our university partnerships.
What was the, let's go back, I'm curious again about what you had said. A normal block, how long does it take before the temperature inside is similar to outside?
Generally speaking, about anywhere from 2.5 hours, 3 hours maybe.
And yours is 3 days?
3 days.
See, I mean, I'm thinking of like one of the costs of a big facility, whether it's a school or whatever, is the kids go home on Friday and they turn the system off, and then, the maintenance man that nobody knows or appreciates has to go in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and crank up that furnace in the wintertime so that the building is maybe warm enough by lunchtime.
Right.
And that obviously costs a lot of money, where in your situation,
It doesn't happen.
that's great.
And it really, when I say thermal lag of 75 hours, what I mean by that is that's a constant temperature. That's
Right.
constant. I mean, if it's a 90-degree day, that means it stays 90 degrees for 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, when you know that when the sun goes down, it does cool to a degree. Essentially, we're talking an infinite
No, I understand.
amount
That
of
makes
time.
sense.
It's-
Yeah.
So maybe talk a little bit about, do you have partnerships with other companies, with universities, et cetera?
We do. Our partnerships with the universities surround a lot of the research and development of different products, not only just specifically in the block per se, because we're really in the structure business. We're trying to bring technology to the structure that really essentially make a building more sustainable, self-sustained. We're actually aiming toward. If you think in terms of the different universities such as Drexel, Penn State, and Villanova, not to give cheap plugs, but
Well, you just did.
You just did.
didn't I? They have been very cooperative in terms of sharing not only our technology through their research and development, but also the other types of research that they are currently involved in to allow us
With
to
other
help
partners.
to allow us to commercialize it for them.
Now, where's the benefit for the university? I can see obviously clearly the benefit for you and the other businesses, but how does it benefit the university?
In terms of the patenting process, the revenue based on whatever it is that they're establishing in terms of royalty,
Okay.
that works back to their endowment.
Wonderful.
And it's a win-win. And,
Yeah.
and in fact, we just aligned ourselves with the SUNY system in New York
Yeah.
State as well. Same general principle. We come in, not only do we offer the endowment in terms of the
royalties.
the royalties and all the rest, but what we really get involved in is a curriculum.
Sure.
The curriculum really is the payback as well. I mean, that's what they key in on. Because in my guest teaching opportunities that I've had with the different universities, this is one thing that just pays huge dividends, and particularly on the graduate side, for these kids that they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
They're like the deer in the headlights, proverbial deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And when a guy like me comes in and actually lectures these lectures that are supposedly for 2 hours, I'm talking to these kids for 4 and 5 hours.
Right.
Because
right.
there's such an enormous amount of things
Well,
that
I think
they
a lot of
don't
it's
expect.
it's less academic. It's more.
Well,
you know,
it's
this
more
is how
real
you
world,
use it.
so they can
Yeah.
see where all of what they're learning leads to when they get out of school.
And it's such a huge opportunity, especially the sustainable technology industry and how it's burgeoning.
So are you involved with the U.S. Green Building Council?
We are, yes, and we are a LEED certified product, as well as other products that we're involved in, also LEED. And when I say LEED certified, basically when I say that, it's the certification process is a rating system, and in the overall LEED certification, it goes from LEED certified to gold to silver to platinum.
Platinum.
Okay.
Platinum.
Right.
Well, our product, we're beyond that. We're well beyond that. We're well beyond the minimum of the standard. So we're twice our capability.
platinum.
Double platinum. Actually, we emerald. It's taking it to the new
There you go.
to the new level, and that's really what we're trying to say. You want green, we'll give you emerald, and that's really what it is, because that is where the standard needs to be. And the USGBC is exactly on board with that. The NAHB, the National Home Builders Association, same thing. They need
Right.
to know that what they're providing for potential home builders and homeowners, that these people can be comfortable in the fact that they're not just standing there paying utility bills every year,
Sure.
every month or every week.
Now, we had talked before the show, and you had talked about what you're doing in Haiti. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're going down to Haiti based on a architectural firm up in New England, and they aligned us with this prospect of going down there in a support role. We don't want to go down there and sell product to these people because they're pretty simple people and they have simple needs. However, what we would like to do is to bring this technology to them and allow them to make their own products, build their own homes in the way that they want these things. Otherwise, you're more or less forcing your thoughts and your expectations on them. They don't want that. They want to be their own entity, and that's essentially what we're doing. Is we're going down there to offer our services in terms of the technology that now exists, and with this particular product, I mean, the wind shear alone is enough to say, please let us see this.
Yeah.
The seismic ratings on it, the fire ratings, and all the rest of the things that are involved with this particular product are just phenomenal. And essentially, that is the type of thing that we really need to be emphatic about, is the fact that this is so beneficial to them, particularly in that type of tropical climate.
Mm-hmm. So you sort of have some kind of partnership where you license your technology to a local manufacturer?
That's correct. That's exactly what we do. Yes, we license the technology, and that's essentially, you go to a producer of block or concrete products and make it available to them through a license, and collect a royalty based on that.
Mm-hmm. So are you doing that also here in the United States?
That's
where
correct.
You're licensing?
That is our business model. Yes. It's been quite successful to this point, through my dad, who has been actually on the block side of things, where we've just expanded into the more holistic approach in terms of the windows and the entire structure. Okay.
And Dad has a patent on that technology?
Dad does. Son of Pennsylvania, and this is a product of.
So there isn't anyone else that, if I would want something like that, there's nowhere else to get it?
Nope. With the exception of those to whom he's licensed to.
Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That is pretty fantastic. So do you have, besides the block, are there other things that you're working on that you'd like to, bring to the public?
Absolutely.
Benefit us just as much?
There was a need also developed. I mean, you mentioned it earlier about new build. And the new build industry, that's a fine industry, I mean, but everybody doesn't have that requirement. Everybody doesn't have that need.
Right.
We've actually also created and come up with, through our university partnerships, what they're calling a bio or eco insulation product. And that's a retrofit. It actually is cladded to the outside of any building. You can take a building that is essentially anywhere from a R4 to an R6 in a standard conventional built building, and make it a R11 or an R15 very quickly with this particular product.
Now, again, I'm not a building guy. What does all that mean?
Our ratings are based
I know
on,
R squared.
Okay, our ratings are based on the ability to retain temperature. Okay, and it's
higher the
measured
better.
The higher is the better.
Exactly.
So when you go to buy new windows for your home,
Right.
the higher that R rating, the better the window.
Gotcha.
And the
its
minimal
thermal
standard
Okay.
in the new building codes that have just been put out through this particular state is R11. So they won't take anything under that. And really, when these particular products were first brought out, and I didn't mention Philadelphia University because they did a lot of this initial research. It was made for row homes, where you would have a cavity created through a fire, things of that nature, and that's when this product was essentially fostered and brought to bear, because they needed to insulate those internal walls to an external wall, and it was a beautiful, beautiful thing 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Fortunately for us, we did partner with them, and we're trying to make that not only viable commercially, but also through the essential manufacture of it too, which is the other side of what we're trying to do.
I mean, because it would seem to me that for all kinds of facilities, this kind of energy savings could be immense.
It's enormous.
And just save whomever has the facility a tremendous amount of money and just make them economic in a way that people could not conceive.
That's right.
When did the first block go in?
In about 1989, 1990.
Wow.
So it's been around for a while.
I thought you were going to tell me last
And
Thursday.
because, you've been around for 20 years now,
Yeah.
and I've actually never heard of this product, and I'm actually pretty familiar with the building industry.
Well, it's part and parcel to Dad invented it, and Dad wanted to do what Dad wanted to do. And he is old school, and God bless, because he does what he's going to do. But my brother and I actually created this business down here in Pennsylvania because we knew of the initiatives by the state to basically go green, and they have been very proactive and very helpful in fostering our efforts to make this more public and more to the knowledge of many people who need to know, because this is where it's going.
So if we were building a structure, I could see how this could go into row home or some sort of small, low facility. Can this go into any kind of high-rise building, or are there certain limitations on where it can be used?
Well, you have compressive strength in shear wall design. We have actually gone. There is one building that's about 13 stories, so we have actually gone up that high with this particular product. Yes. So it's not limited to low-rise buildings. However, it's more suitable to low-rise buildings and municipal applications and municipal housing.
Right, because of the nature of that.
That's correct.
Unfortunately, we have to end our discussion there, and I want to thank our guest. Next week, our guest is going to be Jeff Long with Pattison Sports Group. And again, we just want to remind our viewers that whatever Pat and I discussed earlier today, this show is viewed at different times, and that you should be aware there may be a tremendous lag between when we discuss our stuff and when it is seen on TV. And we want to thank you because your money matters.